Hello, today on Discussing Digital. I'm with Nikie Forster from the Curious Lighthouse Learning Consultancy, and we're here to discuss digital marketing and particularly how Nikie uses digital marketing in her business. So, Nikie, would you like to kind of introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about your business?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, thanks for inviting me on, Rob. Very kind of you. So my business is, my profession is a learning and development consultant. And the way that I usually describe my business is if it's anything to do with learning, I usually get involved in it. But my two main areas that I focus on are helping managers to manage their people better and helping trainers to train others better. So those two ends of the scale of what I do. I work with large and small corporates, independents, pretty much anybody that wants help with learning. I do, and I do that face-to-face and virtually as well.
No, brilliant. Okay. Now, obviously, we're here to discuss how digital marketing fits into the promotion and growth of your business.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, you and I are friends and well connected. So I've seen that you are very active on digital marketing. So it'd be really good if you could kind of give an overview of the different elements of digital marketing that you do, and also as part of that, if you can kind of go into a bit more detail about which ones seem to work best for you.
Sure. I would say my approach to digital marketing is a little bit scattergun approach, to be honest, although I am getting better at it. So I really like it when something's very relevant to what's going on, which is probably why I struggle a little bit with the forward planning of stuff. But I tend to use LinkedIn as my main digital platform, because with the stuff that I do and talking to corporates and other trainers, that's predominantly where my audience is. But with some of the other bits and pieces that I do as well, I find that YouTube is a good place for me to post stuff, as is Facebook, and I'm just starting to get into Instagram. Instagram's one of those things that kind of, I know I should be doing more on, but it doesn't feel comfortable yet, whereas LinkedIn feels very comfortable for me to be on. So I try and post on a Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Sometimes that is very much just a quick post, and other times it's a little bit more in depth, but I always like to include images and stuff like that. I tend to find they get the most engagement.
Yeah, it's really interesting you saying there about one that you have identified that LinkedIn is a good platform for you because of your kind of most clients that you're looking for are there. Yeah. But also your comment around the fact that you kind of feel you should be on Instagram, but you struggle with it because it doesn't come naturally to you. And I think that's really important for people to understand that is the case. I think it's for me, quite often it's actually focus on the one that works best for you, and don't always worry about you feel like you're under pressure to be on the others. Because,
I think one of the reasons why I struggle to kind of let go of Instagram is because, although I've said, in terms of the corporate side for management development, definitely, but in terms of the trainer stuff that I do, they could be corporate trainers, but they could also be entrepreneurs who want to train others in their speciality, so they could create their own online courses, and that's a very different ball game. So Instagram feels as though that would work better for that group. It always feels a little bit like a juggling thing, whereas at the moment what I want to do is I just want to create one post and just plaster it everywhere. Which I know don't.
Yeah, and again, there's nothing wrong with that. But as you say, there are kind of different nuances across the channels. Obviously, Instagram in particular uses things like hashtags a lot more differently to say LinkedIn, although hashtags are appearing a lot more on LinkedIn at the moment, and is going down that route. So I mean, you also mentioned YouTube earlier. So how are you finding YouTube, and how are you finding, what's the best way you found to kind of grow your subscriber list? Because it always feels like a challenge on YouTube.
Yeah. So when I say I use YouTube, what I really should clarify is probably a couple of years ago, I started using it, set up my own channel on there, and I was posting quite regularly. And I used to post it. Originally, I had a topic, particularly around management development, and I would split it into 4 and make 4 shorter videos and then kind of upload them 1 a week for a month. So I thought that would work well. But what I realized was that people don't particularly like parts, part 1, part 2, part 3 on YouTube. They just want something that's condensed down into 2 or 3 minutes, and then they can go off and do something else. And then the pandemic hit, and then I had to share my office with my husband and all the nice equipments in the office. So that it kind of went by the wayside. And so doing videos for me has kind of been put on the back burner a bit. But when I pick it up again, what I really use it for isn't so much to grow the channel on YouTube. It's more a case of uploading it there so that I can create subtitles, because for me, that's the easiest place to create them.
Yeah.
And then B, upload it to my website, because again, it's the easiest way of doing it, or posting on social media. So I almost use it like a software tool rather than a digital marketing tool, if that makes sense.
No, it does. It makes perfect sense. And actually, your comment there about using YouTube for subtitling and creating captions, I use it exactly the same way at the moment. Because as you say, it's got a very good transcription engine. And so it then takes minimal effort to kind of make the subtitles more readable, whereas I certainly found things like Facebook, where they've got transcription services, you have to do a lot more editing. I mean, talking about visuals and things like that, I know one of the things that you've kind of been focusing on in your learning and development marketing is around the use of Lego, so which is a great visual product. I mean, how have you found that has helped?
Oh, it gets so much more engagement, because I should explain that when I am training people, I don't like taking photographs of people while I'm training them. I think it's off-putting, and I think as though people feel as though they then have to almost like put on a show of what they're doing. So sometimes I will take pictures of if they're doing an activity, so that people can see the props that I'm using, and Lego is one of those props. So it really helps me to show people the kind of stuff that I'm doing, and everybody loves Lego, and it's so bright and colorful. And I use it within my management development, but also within training, and I also have it for other trainers to be able to use as activities. So it kind of covers quite a wide range of my business, which is why people probably see it quite a bit. But yeah, the visuals of that, I think it just kind of takes people back to their childhood, or if they're parents playing with their own kids. So it's universal. You cannot sit at a table with Lego in front of you and not pick it up and start building stuff with it. It's almost impossible to do. Yeah. So yes, I do find that I do use a lot of Lego imagery in my social media posts, but like I say, it does get really good engagement.
Yeah. And do you actually, obviously, sort of like, as you say, you're using it during courses, whether that's online, because I know sometimes you actually send out the Lego packs to the person you're training, yes, and things like that. So do you actually kind of take some images while you're doing the training? So effectively, you're almost creating content whilst you're doing something else, rather than having to make a special effort to create the content?
Absolutely. So if I'm doing it, I've just finished doing a one-to-one management development program virtually. So the whole program was virtual. So I sent all that stuff out to them. And rather than trying to take screenshots of them holding things up, I was showing my setup here in the office, where I've actually got the Lego off to one side so that people can see, that's the props that we're going to be using today. So yes, I do think the stuff that gets a lot of the engagement is the behind the scenes and the in the moment stuff, rather than the setup, of everybody, holding their certificates or that kind of thing. I think people like to know what's going on. How did that come to be? What's that person actually doing? How are they making a success of something? And I think people enjoy the journey rather than the end result. Otherwise, it would just be me banging on all the time about come buy my my services, my courses and things like that. And those direct sales pitches don't get any engagement at all, except from your cheerleaders who really like the stuff that you do. You're absolutely right. I do take a lot of the in the moment and the behind the scenes images.
Do you do any sort of other stuff, like things like email marketing, to try and kind of keep people informed about what you're going on and stuff like that?
I've tried. I've tried. So I have a couple of freebies in terms of online courses, and I'm just doing some more ebooks. Just short kind of 12 ways to ... type of stuff. And I do have something set up that can acquire people's emails for that. But I really struggle with the whole newsletter style thing. I don't like newsletters. I don't read other people's newsletters. I've got no desire to create my own newsletter.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of a barrier there for me for that. Should I be doing it? Probably. But in a way that works for me, and I haven't worked out what that way is yet. It's certainly not a bulk standard monthly newsletter. I need to think a bit more about what that is. But
I think it's important. You say that there are barriers. If you've got a mental block, for want of a better word, or like this is something that doesn't work for me, I don't think you should beat yourself up about the fact that doesn't work for me. But actually, I'm happy doing this stuff, so I'll do lots of that. Because sometimes people kind of you hear gurus say you got to do this, you got to do that, and then you beat yourself up and don't do anything. Whereas actually, if you go, I can do this bit, I like doing that bit, a bit like you were saying about earlier about LinkedIn is something I like, I'm happy with, so I can do lots of that. Whereas this other stuff, it just it's hard work, and life's hard enough anyway. Let's not try to do something hard that you can do relatively easy. And as I said before, I know you do loads of stuff anyway, so it's really good. What you do is good anyway. So just touching back again on sort of some of the stuff you do in Repurpose, obviously because you do training courses anyway. Do you have, I think you mentioned you had a couple of freebies that you do. So have you got any training platforms that you where you put courses that you've created to at least hopefully get you some additional income that way as well, rather than being just a marketing tool for digital marketing?
Absolutely. So for example, the Lego that we talked about earlier, as I said, I use that across several different areas, both in terms of using it to help managers to open up and discuss things and things like that. But then I take those activities that I've created and put them into a course so that other trainers can come and have a look at those and then use them for their own learners. So I've got several online courses specifically around that. And I've got them on several different platforms for different reasons. So I use a course creation platform called Thinkific to create online courses. I love them. I think it's really easy, very straightforward to use, very intuitive to use. And you can do a lot on it, but there's no marketing from their point of view involved in that. You have to do all the marketing yourself. So if I'm ever marketing my Lego courses, that's predominantly where I'm sending them to. The other place that I do have them is on Udemy. But I think Udemy is fantastic at what it does in terms of getting it out to a global audience, but they take so much of the profit from it. So it's all about quantity with Udemy rather than building relationships with people and doing it that way. So I've got those. I've got a couple of other ones about creating online courses. The management development stuff tends to be more specifically face-to-face or I do programs rather than one-off events, so that tends to be more invoice led rather than on a course that's bought online.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. So as when we discussed this beforehand, I was going to ask you a couple of things. So if you have, can you kind of like share with everyone one good thing that you're doing in digital marketing that you kind of think, oh, you know, this really works for me and I'm just doing loads of it?
The one thing, if I had to really nail it down, would be the behind the scenes stuff. It's tell people what you're doing. So it's not selling, but it's about what you're doing. So like I said before, my virtual management development program that I've just been running, I've been posting the behind the scenes stuff on that and just talking about what's working. The fact that I found a new piece of software to be able to use to do it. So I'm sharing my own journey and story, but people are still hearing what it is that I'm doing. So that if they need that in the future, they know that that's something that I'm experienced in.
Yeah.
So that is what I would say, rather than trying to sell on social media, is share your story and your journey and become the person that people think about when they need that.
Absolutely. I think that's really good advice. I was going to say what you're saying, but it's about that whole meet, like, no trust stuff, and just people getting to know you and your approach and things like that, rather than, as you say, here's a hard sell type stuff.
Yeah.
Equally, if there's one thing you say, oh, it just doesn't work for me, I just don't want to do that.
I actually think this is something I learned very early on in when I went into my own business. So I started up my own business end of 2015, and I think for probably at least 6 months, the way in which I did digital marketing was how I thought I should sound and how I thought I should come across, which was still kind of very corporate and very, and I'm not saying I'm not professional, I am, but I'm very informal. And it took me a while to realize that actually, if somebody's going to buy a service from me, then they get me. So that's what I need to put out. So everything that I post now is very much just how I would be if I was training somebody or helping somebody, create their own online course or whatever, because then there's no surprises. And also I think people buy people, not products. So that helps that they know what they're getting. So to narrow that down, because I went off on a tangent there. So as always, so to narrow that down, I would say just be yourself.
Yeah.
But whenever you're doing social media, just be yourself.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's great. And I think that's really, really, really good advice. So finally, is there anything else that you'd like to kind of just highlight before we kind of wrap up?
One of the things that I try to do is to stay current. And I think that's important. So although I've said before, I like LinkedIn, I feel comfortable there. The little things tweak and change. I'm not talking about algorithms or things like that, but just things like being able to put feature pages on, or being able to do a voice note for things. So I think even if you're comfortable on a platform, it's still keeping up to date with what's going on, and also just pushing yourself slightly to see what else is out there. So I am never going to be on Twitter. She says I've got a Twitter handle, but I don't look at it. But like I said before, Instagram is probably somewhere where I want to go. So it's keeping up to date with things and having somebody like yourself who can help navigate that stuff as well, I think is really important.
Cool. Oh, thank you for that. I do my best. Brilliant. So just before we wrap up, do you want to just kind of share out sort of your different digital marketing platforms, and so that anybody that's watching would like to go and see the wonderful work you're doing and the wonderful marketing you're doing, so they can actually see what we've been talking about.
Fantastic. Well, I think I can't actually remember them all off the top of my head, but I think what I would probably say is that the best one to contact me on is going to be LinkedIn, and you can look up my name, Nikie Forster, Nikie, but actually I think it's probably going to come under Curious Lighthouse. So if you look under Curious Lighthouse for anything, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, it's all under Curious Lighthouse.
Okay.
So that is what I'd probably say, but LinkedIn is if you're looking for a response from me, that's probably the best place to go.
Yeah, that's fine. And you have sent it through URLs and that, so we will share them in the comments where with the descriptions on the videos, but they will magically appear here as well.
Wonderful, thank you.
Okay, well, in that case, I do thank you for your time today, and I hope everyone's enjoyed watching this, because Nikki's just shared a load of really, really good tips. So I would suggest actually you want to go away, watch this video a couple of times, and really take apart some of the great tips that Nikki's done and shared with us today. So yeah, thank you ever so much, Nikie, and I look forward to catching up with you again in the future.
Wonderful, thank you very much indeed, Rob.